Imagine this. You pull into a quiet roadside garage in the middle of nowhere for a simple oil change. But the woman working under the hood isn't just any mechanic. She's hiding a tattoo that could start a war. That's exactly what happened to Jake Turner on a cold autumn morning in rural Montana. He thought it was going to be an ordinary day, but within hours, black SUVs would block every exit, the sound of automatic rifles would echo through the mountains, and the truth about the woman in greasy overalls would shake him to his core. Stick with me till the end, because this story will blow your mind. And hey, if you love unbelievable, twist-filled stories like this one, hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss the next jaw-dropping tale. Jake Turner had been on the road all night, tired and running low on oil when he spotted a small, lonely garage off Highway 212. The building looked abandoned except for the faint clang of metal from inside. Curious, he stepped out and saw her. A woman in a gray hoodie bent over a Dodge Charger, her jeans stained with grease, dark hair falling in loose strands. She didn't look up, just muttered, "Pull it in," when he asked for help. There was something about her. Silent, sharp. As Jake drove in, his eyes scanned the garage. Too clean, too organized, like a military barracks. That's when he saw it. She reached for a wrench, her sleeve slipped, and a tattoo flashed on her arm. A dagger wrapped in a serpent. Jake froze. He knew that mark. Cerberus. The Black Ops unit no one dared speak of. And suddenly, Jake realized this wasn't just a mechanic. Jake tried to leave, but when he reached for his keys, her voice sliced the air. "Keys stay." He looked at her confused, but her green eyes burned like warning flares. Before he could ask why, a low rumble shook the ground. Engines. Jake turned to the door and saw them, black SUVs tearing off the highway, tires spitting dust. 4 of them. They swarmed the garage, boxing every exit, and men in black tactical gear spilled out, rifles raised. The woman cursed, ripped off her hoodie, and in one motion assembled a rifle from the Charger's trunk with deadly speed. "Get behind the tool chest," she ordered. "Now!" Jake's voice cracked. "Who are they?" She didn't answer. The first bullet shattered the window. Chaos erupted like a storm as the first wave of gunfire shredded the silence of the garage. The echo of bullets ricocheted off steel beams, and sparks exploded from the walls as if the building itself were screaming. Jake hit the concrete hard, crawling on his elbows until his fingers dug into the cold floor behind the heavy tool chest. His breathing came in ragged bursts, his heart pounding so loud he thought it would give him away. Above him, the woman, this mysterious mechanic-turned-soldier, moved like something out of a nightmare, but not his nightmare, theirs. She wasn't human in that moment. She was a ghost, a shadow with steel in her veins, her body flowing through the chaos with the precision of death itself. She slid behind a stack of tires, popped up, and fired 2 rounds from her rifle, clean, controlled bursts that dropped 2 men before they even had time to scream. Their bodies crumpled in the dirt like discarded dolls. "Stay down!" she barked, her voice a razor cutting through the storm as she dove into another position. Jake clutched his head, trying to shrink into nothing as more glass shattered, raining down like jagged rain. The smell of burning oil mixed with the metallic sting of gunpowder choking his lungs as fear crawled into his bones. He risked a glance and saw them, black-clad agents in tactical gear, faces hidden behind night vision masks, rifles spitting fire as they advanced in a ruthless phalanx. One of them tossed something inside, a small black cylinder that rolled across the floor, hissing. "Grenade!" the woman snarled, grabbing Jake by his jacket and yanking him with a strength that defied her size. She hurled them both behind the lift a split second before the blast went off, the shockwave slamming into Jake like a runaway truck, his ears ringing as if the world itself had cracked. Dust and smoke swallowed the garage, turning it into a gray hellscape. "Move!" she roared, dragging him toward the Charger. He stumbled, coughing, eyes stinging, barely processing as she slammed open the car's trunk, revealing an arsenal that made Jake's blood run colder. Grenades, rifles, knives, and a sleek matte black pistol etched with the same serpent and dagger, symbol as her tattoo. She grabbed a duffel bag, slung it over her shoulder, and whipped out a combat blade with a savage grace that made Jake's stomach knot. "Why are they doing this?" he shouted, his voice cracking. She spun and looked at him through the smoke, her green eyes blazing with something feral. "Because I know the truth," she hissed, then turned as a figure lunged out of the haze. She met him mid-air with a savage elbow strike, disarming him in one fluid motion before driving her blade into his side so fast Jake barely registered it until blood sprayed the wall. She didn't even flinch, just ripped the rifle from the dying man and fired at the others closing in. The shots echoed like thunder as the agent screamed and fell, but more kept coming, swarming like wolves. "We're not gonna make it," Jake yelled, panic clawing at his throat. "Not if you keep screaming," she snapped, then shoved him toward the far wall where an old metal hatch sat half-hidden behind a rack of tires. She slammed it open, revealing a ladder dropping into darkness. "Down!" she ordered, firing over his head at another wave of intruders. Jake hesitated, his legs frozen, until her voice ripped through him like a whip. "Go!" He scrambled down the ladder, his palms slick with sweat, his breath coming in choking gasps as gunfire roared above like a storm that wouldn't end. Then she dropped after him, landing light as a cat, and slammed the hatch shut just as another explosion tore through the garage. Darkness swallowed them, broken only by the cold glow of emergency lights embedded in the concrete walls of a tunnel that seemed to stretch forever. Jake collapsed against the damp wall, his chest heaving, but she didn't stop. She grabbed his wrist and yanked him forward. "Move! They'll breach the hatch in 60 seconds. Her voice was ice now, all softness stripped away. Jake stumbled. After her, his legs trembling, his mind spinning in disbelief. He wanted to scream, to demand answers, but his throat was too dry to form words. All he knew was this. Whatever he'd walked into, it wasn't just trouble. It was war. And the woman leading him deeper into the earth wasn't just a mechanic. She was a weapon forged in the darkest fires of secrets men weren't supposed to know. They ran through the narrow tunnel, their footsteps pounding against concrete like war drums in the hollow dark. Jake's lungs burned, his muscles screamed, but she didn't slow, didn't even breathe hard, like her body was carved from steel and fury. Finally, they burst into an underground chamber the size of a warehouse, dimly lit by flickering fluorescent lights. Jake staggered, nearly collapsing as his eyes darted across the space. Old military crates were stacked against the walls, maps covered in coded symbols plastered on metal boards, and in the center stood a long steel table littered with weapons, passports, and cash in foreign currencies. Jake spun to her, chest heaving, terror clawing his insides. "Start talking!" he shouted, his voice cracking like glass. "Who the hell are you? What did I just see up there?" She stared at him, her face carved from stone, then slowly pulled back her sleeve. The serpent and dagger tattoo gleamed, black under the harsh light, but what made Jake's stomach twist was what lay beneath. Embedded under her skin, faintly glowing with a sinister blue hue, was something unnatural, a microchip pulsing like a tiny heart. Jake recoiled. What is that?" he whispered. Her voice was low, like a blade sliding from its sheath. "The reason they'll kill anyone who sees me alive." Jake shook his head, sweat dripping down his temple. "Why? What's in it?" Her eyes locked on his, burning with a fire that could melt steel. "It's not just a tracker, it's a vault key. It holds kill codes for every Cerberus op in history, assassinations, coups, black site prisons, names, dates, everything. If this chip gets extracted and decrypted..." She trailed off, her jaw tightening. Jake swallowed hard. "Then what?" Her voice dropped to a whisper that felt like the end of the world. "Then governments fall. Wars ignite. Millions die. Before Jake could respond, a deafening boom shook the chamber, dust cascading from the ceiling. His head snapped toward the tunnel they'd come from, where the hatch now glowed red-hot before blasting off its hinges. The SUVs hadn't given up. They were here. Black-clad agents stormed in like a flood of death, rifles raised, their boots pounding like war drums. Jake's heart leapt into his throat as the woman spun, her hand a blur as she grabbed a smoke grenade from the table and hurled it. The chamber filled with choking white fog as gunfire erupted, the sound a metallic roar that drowned out everything. Jake dropped to his knees, coughing, crawling blindly until a hand yanked him up. "Stay with me," she snarled, dragging him toward another tunnel on the far side. Bullets ripped past, sparks dancing in the fog, and Jake heard the sickening thud of bodies hitting concrete. They crashed through a steel door, slammed it shut, and sprinted into darkness. "There's no end to them," Jake gasped. "There's an end," she hissed, slamming another hatch behind them. "When I put this chip in the ground for good." Jake stared at her, realization dawning like a blade to the gut. "You're not running. You're going to destroy it." She nodded once, grim and final. "If I can't, they'll tear it out of me. Alive." Jake's blood ran cold. "What happens if they do?" Her answer was a whisper, almost lost in the echoing dark. "Then pray you die before you see the world burn."